Pokemon Pokopia is cute, and the new forms of Pokemon it introduces are interesting enough that I want to analyze them. So, let's analyze them. Professor Tangrowth! Affectionately known as Professor Tangrowth, this Pokemon is a vital guide to you and all the Pokemon you meet. I am so happy with the Tangrowth love. Tangrowth was always one of my favorites of the new evolutions that Gen 4 added, and this one is a professor now, the highest academic rank at universities, conducting original research and teaching undergrads. They typically are older folks, since it takes a lot of school and study to become one, hence the graying of Tangrowth's head. But I'm curious if vines do that. Tangrowth and Tangela always were generic cartoon vine, gorgon, swamp monster, tumbleweed, green men things, rather than any specific vine species, but they all die, and as they come close to it, they change from greens and more lively browns to lighter, drier tans, similar enough to human hair turning gray, silver, or white as death slowly approaches. I probably didn't need to explain that, but I should probably explain what it is that he's wearing. And yes, Tangrowths show their sexual dimorphism through the length of the pink on their fingers, which doesn't exactly relate to real vining plants, which, depending on species, can in fact be male, female, or hermaphroditic, but this is usually shown by the shapes of their flowers, or if they even have them at all. The best I think we can assume here is that, like female Wobbuffet, it's a bit of beautification. Female Tangrowth paint their nails, so this makes Professor Tangrowth here a male, with only the tips. Only the tip has been dipped. But he's wearing those cute broken glasses that appear to be googly specs, an accessory item for Pokemon Super Contests in the Generation 4 games, so the same time and place that Tangrowth was introduced. And on its head is a normal type TM. Which one though? We don't know yet. But it does make Professor Tangrowth resemble a doctor, fitting as I'm sure plenty of professors have their doctorates too. A head mirror and stethoscope is shorthand for is a doctor, after all, albeit a bit of an old-fashioned one. Doctors would have fold-down head mirrors to help them light up patient orifices like the ears, nostrils, and throat. But upon the invention of LEDs and LED flashlights, they pretty much stopped being used altogether. But their use was so widespread and for so long that it became a skeuomorph, which is like, here's another example. You know how a lot of games and programs still use a floppy disk as the save icon, even though we haven't used floppy disks for like 3 decades? Yeah, it's that phenomenon, but for doctors. And lastly, Professor Tangrowth has a stick. It's a stick, but they use it like a teacher's pointer, or like a writing implement. In Professor Tangrowth's concept art, we see him attempting to write in the ground, but he's not very good at it. Still learning. And that's okay. It's hard when you don't have thumbs.
Peakychu!
What an unusually pale Peakychu. Oh, and with such a tiny tail too, ending with a heart. Peakychu's a girl. And a ghost, is my assumption. She's got that classic Casper the Ghost glow and coloration, but the shrinking of the tail and the flopping of the ears is such a curious condition. Peakychu is always another sort of generic rodent or small mammal, pulling in elements from many, so I think it's safe to look at floppy-eared rabbits as an example for what's going on here. Rabbits and hares normally have stiff, upright ears like regular Peakychu. They can, of course, move them around, but they stay stiff thanks to the thick cartilage within them, especially at the base. But when this cartilage weakens due to age, disease, or just genetics, the ear flops, and the rabbit is now a lop-eared rabbit. And certainly dying would cause weaker ear cartilage, right? The lop comes in a few different flavors, like half lop, horn lop, and the most fitting of Peakychu, oar lop. Rather than folding down completely, they are a little lower than horizontal, resembling the oars sticking out of a small boat. An interesting note, though, is that while lop-eared rabbits make great and adorable pets and they love you so much, they do have a much harder time surviving in the wild. Rabbits are very common prey for all sorts of predators, and their large erect ears help them hear when predators approach. And they double help by regulating their body temperature. As blood approaches the extremities of their ears, it cools off before going back to their cores. But if these ears are lopped and closer to their cores, it can't get as cool, let alone hear. nearly as well. So perhaps Peakychu doesn't have lopped ears because she's a ghost. Perhaps she's a ghost because she had lopped ears. That would be fitting of her name, actually. Peakychu is clearly a play on Pikachu with peaky, a British term for feeling ill or fatigued. If someone is pale with illness, someone could say, "Oi, what's all this then? You feeling a bit peaky?" Perhaps that could explain the tiny tail too. Pichu has a tiny tail. Perhaps as a Pichu she evolved, but only just barely had the energy to do so, resulting in this deformity. Was it genetic? Or was it disease caused by poor living conditions in a dying ecosystem, which has since caused the humans to disappear in this game? Mini theory time. Is Peakychu a Mimikyu that died, and its soul takes the form of a flawed Pikachu because that's how she always saw herself? Now there's a depressing twist.
Smearguru!
What a colorful chum. It looks like quite the prolific painter. He should be pretty simple. A guru is another kind of teacher, usually a spiritual one, often Hindu or Buddhist, though the term has become more broad with time. Smearguru is clearly a guru of painting. Smeargle is a beagle that loves to paint, and this one just happens to have a brush that paints different colors. He's even painted a little mustache on himself. Should I do that? So kind of similar to the doctor's head mirror, little mustaches like this are a symbol for weird and eccentric artists. And we have Salvador Dali to thank for that. The dude painted some weird stuff which helped kickstart the surrealist movement, and he even wrote an absurdist book called Dali's Mustache. And yes, like Smeargle painting with its tail, Dali sometimes painted with his mustache. An odd duck.
Mosslax.
Moss has grown all over this Snorlax, and a flower sways atop its head. How long has it been asleep? You know, this is something we've seen a reference to before. Gigantamax Snorlax has a whole gosh dang garden growing on its belly. But this time, it's a regular Snorlax. Perhaps this particular Snorlax is super old and was around before whatever apocalyptic disaster happened to remove the humans in Pokopia, thus the Snorlax having plot relevance. But fun fact, this kind of thing happens to real animals too. For instance, the best example is the three-toed sloth. They're so slow and lazy all the time that green algae is known to grow on their fur, making them green. This actually benefits them though. It helps them blend in with their equally green canopy surroundings. It's like a ghillie suit. Not that a Snorlax would need that extra help blending in. I'm sure most other Pokemon wouldn't want to disturb something that can crush them if it happens to roll over in its sleep. But do you plan on checking out Pokopia? I hope there's a lot more fun characters like this because I like analyzing character designs and what inspired them. That's like 90% of this channel. So here's another video that does that. Yay.